Is there a secret formula to helping engage your ADHD employees? I'm Brett, the Audi Boss. I have over 10 years of leadership training and experience, and I'm also a manager with ADHD and autism. And for this video, welcome to my very messy, very ADHD kitchen as we have this conversation. Now, it's a little clickbaity to say, is there a secret to getting your ADHD employees more involved in their work? But the secret is leaning into their special interests. Let me explain. First and foremost, we may not necessarily always know if our employees have ADHD, and we can't necessarily ask. But if you're recognizing an employee who's maybe having some struggles with getting their work done or slow to respond, or maybe doesn't have as much engagement as another employee, there are small tell signs where there might be signs of ADHD. And even if they do or don't, there are things in this technique that could actually help all employees, whether they have ADHD or you know if they have ADHD or not. This might show up in a way of like, maybe you're thinking, well, they're not trying hard enough, or they're not doing enough, or I feel like they're not giving it their all. A lot of times in our conversations, when we don't take a moment to pause and ask questions and get curious about why an employee is or isn't trying harder or doing enough, so that it's more of a finger wag kind of telling you this and that conversation. Instead, an employee needs to feel psychological safety to come to those conversations so that you can gently ask, hey, what's going on here? I find that this work isn't really probably your best, or I'm finding that, we're going back and finding these things over and over again. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on in your world. I'm noticing some struggles. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with your struggle? If an employee feels safe enough to open up to some of that, if you listen for the different cues that might say, oh, they're having trouble getting started, they're having trouble with task initiation, they're having trouble with demand avoidance, they're having trouble maybe being overwhelmed because the tasks are too overwhelming, or simply they just don't have an interest in this thing, which is making it harder for them to get started and harder for them to get into that thing. They just need another way in. It's not that they can't do the job, it's just that they may not be able to do the job the way others are expected to do who are not neurodivergent. But for those of us who are neurodivergent, we just need a different way in. We need different types of support in order to get the job or the work done. But simply a conversation talking to us about that can help us figure out with a manager and employee what those ways in are, possibly with some very small, gentle, reasonable accommodations that don't need to be formal, but just sort of are gentle ways to figure it out. For me specifically, having a conversation about a project and then having follow-ups in writing helps me tremendously. Being able to ask a lot of people questions and figure these things out, tremendously helpful. And understanding things like executive function, demand avoidance, PDA, these are all things that are within the brain of an ADHD person, cause us to sort of need a little bit more support. Finding yourself as a manager and you're compelled to tell somebody to try harder, believe me when I say this as an ADHD employee, we already know. We already know that that's an area that we're struggling with, and that's not something that we're able to just do, try harder. We need different ways in. We need different support. We need to figure out ways so that we can be trying harder because the systems may not be working for us to do so. And really where it starts is find out what they're interested in. Take an inquiry, strength-based approach to what do they want to do. Now, of course, it's easy to say, what do you want to do at work? But every job that we show up in, even if there's things that we do and don't want to do, there's always a way in. And for many ADHD employees like myself, we just need to find our way in. I need to find my way in even on the things I don't want to do. And luckily, the things that I really like to do and the things that I really excel at, my boss is able to see the difference between the things that I'm really good at and where my strengths are and where my weaknesses are, where I maybe don't have as much interest. So if something is a special interest, or if it's something that I'm particularly excited about doing, or I become kind of an expert on because I spend a lot of time on that thing, best thing a manager can do for me, and the best thing that I try to do as a manager, is lean into those interests for my team, lean into those interests for the people that are on my team. Often what I'll do is I'll sit with my team and I'll do a quick little survey, which they can do on their own. They don't need to do this in real time. They don't need to do this in front of me. But I have these survey questions that I put in front of people. And one of the things is, what is something that you're really interested in doing here at work? Let it be an open-ended recommendation for things that they want to think about. What is something you see somebody else doing in the organization that you have an interest in that you think you might like to do more of that too? What is a superpower that you have that maybe you don't talk about that you'd like to bring to work? What is a superpower that you have that people have noticed in you that maybe you want to be doing more of? And is there something else in the organization that you see somebody else doing that you think maybe I could do that better than that person. And is that something that maybe I could have an interest in? These are all good things to have growth conversations with. These are all good topics to figure out, well, let's get you some training on that thing. If you have an interest here, let's get you some training on that. What I have found is that when I lean into those special interests, when I lean into those things that people really want to do, we pull on that thread, we give them a little bit of structure at the same time, and we can grow that knowledge, we can grow that learning, we can grow that experience, we can grow that training, and they quickly become a more engaged employee. They quickly become someone who wants to do more of that thing, and their interest grows, and it makes sort of the harder things a little bit easier to do while we're doing the things that they want to do. Now, we can't obviously always do the things we want to do all the time. That's just not how the world works. But if we can find those pockets and we can give employees space and we can give them opportunities to have their growth, to have their inquiry, to do those things, they're going to become a more engaged employee. You have to create that space for them. You have to give them that time. And you want to be able to allow an ADHD employee in particular to go hyper focus on that thing. So if there is an interest or a topic or an area, give them the space and the boundaries to go off and do that thing to help them. Make it a special project, make it an assignment, but then continuously check in. Checking in can also be gentle questions for, tell me a little bit about how that's going. I'm curious how your work is on that. Tell me a little bit more about what you've discovered. Tell me what you think I need to know about these things. If you can kind of engage in sort of ways like that, you're going to help quickly get to more of that amazing interest of that person and help flesh that out. Now, you also want to put in other boundaries to say, are there areas that you're struggling with? Are there areas you need support in? What are you finding out, but maybe you might need some support in to keep going further on this thing? What can we do to continue to support you? What can we do to continue to help you grow in this space, grow in this area? Again, growth conversations are about removing barriers and leaning into special interests. My number one technique as a leader is always, how can I be thinking about removing barriers for an employee, removing barriers for a team member? The more we can kind of lean into removing barriers, but this has to be a back and forth as well. It's important that an employee take that time to go research, to go think, to go sit with that question. And you want to give them time. Hey, here's some questions I want you to go think about. You don't have to answer me now. You don't have to answer in real time, but I recommend you go off and figure out, sit with some of these questions, maybe process this for a couple of days, come back at the end of the week, and let's have another conversation about what you think about this. And then you have to sort of engage in that dialogue to get more of that information out of that person, and then try things. Do little things like, well, what if we tried this? What if we tried that? What if you job shadowed this other person in the company? What if you did sort of like a little interview tour where you go around and talk to other people and figure out if that's a thing that you have an interest in or you want to do more of that? I find that doing small things like this can help avoid setting an employee off on a path of putting them on a performance plan. Avoiding a PIP is really essential for an ADHD and autistic employee. A lot of times what I have found when people don't understand neurodivergence in the workplace and don't understand autism and especially don't understand ADHD, an ADHD employee will end up on a PIP because they're simply not getting the tools and the resources that they need in the workplace to excel and do their best work. When we lean into an employee's special interest or an employee's abilities to get into the things that they're interested in, the more we can avoid PIPs. And we might find, hey, this is someone who really can turn this problem around over here. And in the process, we compare strengths with strengths and make the workplace stronger and make the workplace better. As always, if you have questions about ADHD in the workplace or just ADHD in general and you want to learn more and know more, I always recommend How to ADHD. Jessica McCabe, of course, has the most amazing YouTube channel. This video is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form by her book, by her publisher, or by her channel. I just love this book, and I find it to be the quintessential book on understanding ADHD and explaining ADHD to other people. This is the top book for ADHD in terms of understanding and getting a better sense of it, especially if you're in the workplace and you're trying to understand your employees. I'm Brett, the Audi Boss. Thanks for watching. If you have more questions or comments or thoughts about ADHD and autism in the workplace, please like and subscribe to this channel. Let me know in the comments if you have a question that you'd like for me to tackle, and I'll try to make a video about that. Be sure to check out some of the other videos while you're here, and thanks for watching.